I was in the middle of a large sports field. The field was surrounded by massive multi-tiered grandstands. I knew that there was a very significant event on at the stadium that night. Welcome to Heart of David Ministries. Our purpose is to ignite a generation with the heart of God. My name is Nathan. In January 2017, I had a dream. In the dream, I was in the middle of a large sports field. The field was surrounded by massive multi-tiered grandstands. The grandstands were covered, but the field was not. I was alone and sitting on a makeshift portable film director's seat. I was reminded of Peter Jackson, the director of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit movies. These movies were filmed in New Zealand and feature New Zealand's stunning scenery. I knew that there was a very significant event on at the stadium that night. Next thing, a helicopter flew down into the field. In the helicopter was a married couple I know from New Zealand who have a prophetic ministry to the nations and do intercessory tours to Israel. They had come to do a television interview with me about the event that was happening that night. I was self-conscious about being interviewed because my hair was out of place. I wasn't prepared for or expecting a television interview. As the dream ended, the numbers 333 was superimposed over the scene, and then the word Isaiah appeared before the numbers. I remember thinking in the dream, that's odd. Normally 333 would refer to the well-known Jeremiah 33:3 rather than a verse in Isaiah. To understand the dream, let me answer 5 questions. Question number 1, what was the big event at the stadium? Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 1 speaks of a great cloud of witnesses. The cloud of witnesses is comprised of men and women of faith who have already gone on to heaven. They are focused on God's people and God's purposes and take a great interest in the events in the nations. The cloud of witnesses are particularly interested in New Zealand and Australia. Ezekiel 43 tells how the glory of the Lord returned through the East Gate in Jerusalem. New Zealand and Australia are strategic East Gate nations. The eyes of heaven will be focused on New Zealand and Australia because of their strategic role in revealing God's glory to the nations. Question number 2. What do I represent? I represent intercessory ministry. Sometimes intercessors bury their faces in pillows when they experience intense intercessory burdens. I know I have done that sometimes. Of course, it messes up your hair, but you're not worried about that when you are in private. In the dream, I was like that intercessor. I wasn't prepared for or expecting a television interview. The film director's seat speaks of how intercessory ministry helps shape and direct God's glorious unfolding end times narrative. Question number 3. What does the ministry couple represent? The prophetic ministry of Ian and Joy Johnson is called His Amazing Glory Ministries. They represent 3 things. Number 1, the prophetic significance of the upcoming event at the stadium. Number 2, the strategic role of Israel and God's end time purposes. And number 3, prophetic declaration. That leads to question number 4. What is the significance of being interviewed for television? Prophetically, television can mean tell a vision. Intercessors will tell and declare God's vision for the nations. Today, many people are seeing the destiny of nations through the lens of their end-time theologies rather than really knowing God's heart for those nations. After the dream, I was reminded of Derek Prince's classic book, Changing History Through Prayer and Fasting. Most intercessory ministry is done in secret. Intercessors are not looking for the limelight and would rather not be interviewed for television. However, their voices will be heard and released through the airwaves. Prophetic intercessors will play a strategic role in alerting people to the glorious narrative of God's purposes for the nations. Question number 5. What is the significance of the number 333? In Jeremiah 33:3, God says, "Call to me, and I will answer you, and show you great and mighty things which you do not know." When I woke up from the dream, I looked up Isaiah 33:3. It is about God defending and protecting Israel from hostile nations. At the noise of the tumult, the people shall flee. When you, referring to God, lift yourself up, the nations shall be scattered. Jeremiah 33:3 is about intercession and prophetic vision. Isaiah 33:3 is about God protecting and defending Israel from hostile nations. Intercession, prophetic vision, protecting and defending Israel. These are all connected and will bring about a profound glory in the earth. The number 3 also speaks of 3 specific nations, the power of resurrection, and the fullness of apostolic mandate. Let me deal with these one at a time. 3 specific nations. The alignment of New Zealand, Australia, and the United States in support of Israel will help bring many other nations into alignment with Israel. God is prompting intercessors from around the world to pray for these and other nations to come into full alignment with His agenda for Israel. The power of resurrection. 3 is the number of resurrection. Jesus rose on the 3rd day. In Romans 11:15, Paul says that when the dividing wall between Jew and Gentile comes down, it will be life from the dead. The fullness of apostolic mandate. The apostolic mandate that Jesus gave to his apostles in Acts 1:8 had 3 levels to it. Number 1, Jerusalem. Number 2, Judea and Samaria, which are grammatically connected in the Greek. And number 3, the ends of the earth. This order will reverse and go from the ends of the earth back to Jerusalem. The cloud of witnesses is watching the events in the nations and is paying particular attention to New Zealand. New Zealand is the farthest nation from Jerusalem and a strategic East Gate nation. When the Jerusalem East Gate and the New Zealand East Gate are both open, there will be an arc of glory all the way back to Jerusalem. The glory of the Lord will cover the earth as the waters cover the sea. God's plan is to align the nations with His purpose for Israel because it is His desire to bless the nations. It is time for the church to step into her intercessory prophetic role and boldly call forth God's purposes for the nations. All of heaven is watching, waiting, and full of anticipation. And like those massive grandstands I saw in my dream, it's going to be huge. What do you see when you look at the nations of the earth? Do you see God's purposes prevailing, or do you see demonic strategies prevailing? Do you see God's glory restoring nations, or do you see demonic chaos destroying nations? I want to challenge you to see nations through God's eyes. Start by asking God to show you His plans for your nation. And please take the time to share what He shows you in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like, subscribe, and notification buttons. Let's ignite a generation with the heart of God. Be blessed, and I'll see you in the next video.